Free agency is a little over a month away and the Eagles are facing some tricky decisions. But one of those less difficult, unfortunately for one player, is the future of Nelson Agholor, the wide receiver who was once a first-round pick by this franchise and has spent 5 years with the team, looks almost certain to test the free agent market. But exactly how did we get here? Where did things go wrong? And is there any chance Agholor returns at all? Buckle up, strap yourselves in, it is time to look back at the story of Nelson Agholor while wearing a midnight green jersey. If you're new around here, be sure to leave a like and drop your comments down below. How do you feel about Agholor? Would you want to see him stay in Philadelphia, or has his tenure come to an end? And as always, you can get your daily dose of Philadelphia sports coverage from myself, Liam Jenkins, and all of our sports writers at phillysportsnetwork.com. With their first round selection, pick number 20, the Philadelphia Eagles selected Nelson Agholor, a wide receiver whose name, wherever mentioned in the city of Philadelphia, will always draw discussion. Some will allude to that iconic 2017 Super Bowl season, while others are still troubled by the drops and all the other problems that seem to have swallowed this young wide receiver. But there was a lot of promise with this selection. I mean, at the time, Agholor was one of the most productive wideouts in college football. He finished 7th with 104 receptions, 9th with 1,313 receiving yards, and tied for 7th in the nation with 12 touchdowns, also showing some value as a punt and kick returner. The Eagles clearly needed some help at wide receiver, especially after Chip Kelly, got rid of... We won't go there. Standing at 6 foot and 198 pounds, he did most of his damage in USC at the slot, and that's why it became a little bit peculiar why he was used outside under Chip Kelly. He wasn't ever really given the opportunity to shine under Chip Kelly, and I will give him that. Now, his rookie season again was haunted with drops and those mental hurdles that we will touch on in due course, but a lot of those routes were comebacks and curls and just basic things underneath. They weren't playing to his explosive skill set, they weren't playing to the burst and the twitch that he had in his play, and that did hurt him in 2015, a year in which he ended up recording just 23 receptions for 283 yards and scoring 1 touchdown. But I do remember there was that one game against the New York Jets. It was against Darrelle Revis, and one of the first Eagles film rooms I ever made was an article highlighting just how well Nelson Agholor did. He was rarely targeted, but he had Darrelle Revis on strings the entire game, using some of that twitchiness and those quick cuts to get past one of the best in the game. There was at least potential, especially when Doug Peterson came in, a new coach, a new era, a new opportunity to shine. There was also a brand new quarterback in Carson Wentz, a shiny new toy, someone that could maybe put him in a better position to make a play than Sam Bradford, but ultimately it didn't help that much. Agholor again, 365 yards of receiving, under 500 for the second year in a row. But before he even got to the season, there was a potential sexual assault case. Now, he was never charged or anything like that, but it's not exactly something you wanted to see. But before the season even started in June, Nelson Agholor had been accused of sexually assaulting a dancer at a gentleman's club in Philadelphia. The 27-year-old dancer told police she was raped inside the club during an event where Nelson Agholor and a few teammates went to the venue. Now, he was never charged with anything, and that has to be noted because I think that's very, very important with situations like this that are so delicate. But if you've got a young man that's already battling some mental problems or maybe doubting himself, you've already got a player that's maybe showing signs of lacking that mental toughness on the field, who then gets involved in that ordeal, considering that pressure on the field was already weighing down pretty heavy, regardless of whether this happened, whether it didn't, whether he's innocent or guilty, it's not good for your mental health. Like, I couldn't even imagine what it would be like to go through something like that in Agholor's situation. And the fact that he was innocent and wasn't charged will have weighed down on those shoulders so much it can't have made 2016 the easiest ride possible. And there were flurries. There were some really impressive games. Agholor dropped 6 passes in contrast to 36 catches, with a drop percentage of catchable passes sitting at 14.3%. It's certainly less than ideal. The pressure certainly started to mount midway through his second year, and then the Eagles took the decision against the Green Bay Packers in November to bench Nelson Agholor. And this wasn't because he was playing badly, so to speak, but his head just didn't seem to be in the right place. He was second on the team in receptions prior to the benching, so it's not as if he wasn't getting attention or he wasn't ready for the NFL level. And I remember when I spoke with Jordan Matthews during an interview a few years ago, he told me that the second Nelson actually opened up and told his teammates about those worries, they're actually able to help him. They were unable to do so if they didn't know what the problem was or where this lack of confidence or maybe hint of mental health problems started to rise. There was a lot of pressure on Nelson Agholor. He was a former first round pick in his second season, still battling drops, still turning the wrong way for balls, still struggling to locate balls in the air, and I think it caught up to him, leading to a benching. Time for him to get his head in the right place, take a break, and then come back ready and raring when the time was right. Now, he did come back to face the Bengals and then posted up 2 receptions for 22 yards in week 14. It was hardly a massive leap in production, but the Eagles at least seemed happier that he had kind of battled those demons and come back slightly better equipped to deal with the rigors of the NFL. Then 2017 happened, and that was the season that everyone will remember. It was his best season yet, 768 yards, a career high 8 touchdowns, and a career high 12.4 yards per reception. The Eagles finally had a wide receiver 1 in Alshon Jeffrey. They brought in a speedster on the other end, and that left Agholor to sit pretty in the middle next to Zach Ertz and just do his thing, and I think he needed that. He needed pressure taken off his shoulders, and in 2018, another 64 catches, another 700 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Like, Nelson Agholor started to become a reliable, a productive slot receiver. But then came 2019, and the Eagles were left with a conundrum. Do they pick up that 5th-year option and pay him $9.3 million, or do they let him walk? And for what he brought to the table at the time, it felt as though he had 700 yards in each of the last 2 seasons. He was getting more and more efficient. The drops were going down. And then something happened. Agholor was being moved around the offense much more in a gadget way, almost as if he was being used in the fashion that Golden Tate would have been had he stayed in Philadelphia. And after 10 games in 2019 and having just 322 yards with 4 drops to his name, Mike Groh, his offensive coordinator and former receivers coach, was asked about the regression, and his quote basically attributed his mental flexibility and ability to learn to wearing numerous hats. Now, this should raise alarm bells, because if you're asking a receiver to wear numerous different hats and he's struggling to do them all at the same time, then why are you asking a rookie in JJ Arcega-Whiteside to do the same thing? But that's a different debate for a different day. We're focusing on Agholor, and they basically said that in 2017 he was able to stay in one spot, whereas 2019 he moved around. But his yards per game regressed consistently year on year from 2017 through 2019. And maybe it was the weight of expectation, the fact that he was almost being paid as much money as Alshon Jeffrey that year, or in the same sort of vein as Deshaun Jackson. But for whatever reason, Agholor started to struggle again, and the drops came back again. And the Eagles, who were feeling a pressing need to get value out of their wide receivers, were starting to struggle, and the doubts started to set in, and those old demons that Agholor had once beaten had reared their ugly heads. And then when he went down with a knee injury, the emergence of Greg Ward Jr. definitely didn't do him any favours, and now we sit here on the edge of an offseason where Agholor is set to enter free agency on the back of a roller coaster couple of seasons. He went from being a rookie, someone that had battled his own mental demons for quite some time, someone that had struggled on the outside, to being a very efficient slot receiver, a Super Bowl champion, and then slowly but surely creeping back down the stairs. It was a bizarre thing to watch, but I think his time in Philadelphia may be coming to an end. The Eagles will not be paying him $9 million again. He's not worth that kind of money at this stage, and I think that with the knee injury in mind, it could be a bit more substantial. Agholor's likely going to have to test the free agent market. It would be interesting if he was brought back, but with such a loaded wide receiver class, we may have seen the very last of Nelson Agholor in an Eagles jersey. And some fans will be happy about it, some fans will be sad about it, but this roller coaster was eventful, to say the very least. And on that bombshell, that is the end of the video, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Should Nelson Agholor be kept around by the Eagles, and what do you make of his overall tenure? It's obviously something which can be attributed to different factors. Maybe it's the instability at wide receiver coach. Maybe it's down to the changing coaching staff, or the off the field stuff, or the on the field worries, or maybe he just doesn't have that mentality to be absolutely elite in the NFL as he once did in college. But let me know down in the comments, guys. From myself, Liam Jenkins, I'll see you next time.